Somewhere off the coast of Scotland, marine biologists kept finding dead baby porpoises washing ashore with the exact same injuries: cracked ribs, internal bleeding, bite marks spaced precisely like adult teeth. For years, nobody could explain it. Then necropsies revealed the truth. The animals doing this weren't sharks, and they weren't some obscure predator. They were bottlenose dolphins. The same species that stars in Swim with Dolphins tourist brochures. The same species people credit with pushing drowning swimmers to safety. So which is it? Are dolphins actually the gentle, big-hearted friends of humanity that pop culture keeps telling us they are? Or have we just been extremely selective about which stories we choose to tell? The nice dolphin reputation runs deep, and it's easy to see why. There are genuinely documented cases of dolphins circling swimmers to keep sharks away, nudging disoriented people toward shore, or supporting injured pod members at the surface so they can breathe. Add in decades of TV shows, movies, and aquarium performances built around a permanently upturned mouth that makes every dolphin look like it's smiling, no matter what it's actually doing. And you get one of the most positively branded wild animals on the planet. That fixed smile, by the way, is just the shape of their jaw. It has nothing to do with mood. A dolphin can be actively attacking another animal and still look, to us, like it's grinning the entire time. That mismatch between appearance and behavior turns out to matter a lot, because the more researchers actually study dolphins in the wild, not the trained ones doing tricks at a marine park, but wild pods being tracked for years at a time, the more that friendly image starts to crack. Start with the porpoise killings, because this is some of the best documented dolphin violence in the scientific literature. Along the coast of Scotland, researchers examining stranded harbor porpoises found that the majority showed injuries consistent with dolphin attacks. Internal trauma, rib fractures, bite patterns matching adult bottlenose dolphin jaws almost exactly. And this wasn't happening over food. Dolphins don't eat porpoises. There's no competition for resources explanation that fully accounts for it. Researchers who've directly witnessed these attacks describe something closer to a hunt than a territorial skirmish. Dolphins have been observed working together to chase down a single porpoise, taking turns, ramming it at full speed, tossing it several feet into the air with their snouts, and continuing the assault for well over an hour in some recorded cases, long after the porpoise had stopped fighting back or trying to flee. It's not quick. It's not incidental. It reads, in the raw field notes, uncomfortably close to a group of animals that seemed to be enjoying the chase itself. Then came an even stranger discovery, and this is the part that really upended how researchers thought about dolphin social life. When scientists in Scotland, and later independently along the Virginia coastline in the United States, started examining dead bottlenose dolphin calves, they found the exact same signature of injuries as the porpoise attacks: bilateral rib fractures, internal bleeding, bite wounds spaced to match adult dolphin tooth patterns, not one isolated case. Multiple calves, multiple locations, multiple independent research teams, all converging on the same disturbing conclusion published in peer-reviewed journals. Adult bottlenose dolphins were killing their own species' infants. The leading explanation is something called the sexual selection hypothesis. In short, a nursing mother typically won't become fertile again until her calf is weaned, which can take years. Kill the calf, and her body may cycle back into fertility far sooner, creating a brutal shortcut for a male looking to father the next calf himself. It's calculated, reproductive violence, and researchers now suspect it may also explain the porpoise killings. Young porpoises are roughly calf-sized, and may simply be triggering the exact same instinct in adult male dolphins, almost like a case of mistaken identity with a much darker outcome than a shark accidentally biting a surfer. The violence doesn't stop with infanticide, either, and this next part is arguably the most unsettling because of how organized it is. Some of the most detailed dolphin behavior research ever conducted comes out of Shark Bay in Western Australia, where scientists have spent over 3 decades tracking individually named dolphins across multiple generations, building family trees the way you'd study a small human town. One of the standout findings involves male alliances, and these aren't loose, casual groupings. Pairs or trios of male dolphins form tight first-order alliances. Those alliances then team up with other alliances to form second-order coalitions, sometimes even a third level above that. Alliances of alliances, essentially political factions, cooperating specifically to isolate a single female from the rest of her pod. Once she's separated, the coordinated group herds her using sustained aggressive tactics, biting, slapping her with their tails, slamming into her with their full body weight, and chasing her down every time she tries to break away. sometimes for days at a stretch, specifically to coerce mating. Researchers describe this as one of the most complex documented examples of coordinated male coercion in any species outside of humans. It isn't a rogue individual losing control. It's a structured, multi-generational social strategy passed down and repeated by the same families of dolphins year after year. None of this stays neatly contained to interactions between dolphins and porpoises, either. It bleeds directly into how wild dolphins treat humans who get too close. There's a well-documented pattern researchers call solitary sociable dolphins, individual wild dolphins that, for reasons still debated, split off from their pods and attach themselves to human communities instead, often near a specific beach or harbor for years at a time. Early on, these dolphins tend to be gentle, curious, and genuinely enjoyable to be around, which is exactly how several of them became local celebrities with their own nicknames and tourism followings. But researchers who've tracked these individuals over long periods have documented a troubling pattern. As the dolphin gets more habituated to constant human contact, and as tourists increasingly grab, ride, and crowd the animal, its behavior frequently escalates. Multiple well-known solitary dolphins across different countries have gone from playful to aggressive over time. There are documented cases of these animals slamming into swimmers hard enough to break ribs, biting people who tried to touch them, and in a few instances, holding a person underwater during what researchers believe the dolphin experienced as rough play rather than a deliberate attempt to drown them, which honestly doesn't make it much less dangerous if you're the one underwater. Wildlife agencies in multiple countries now explicitly warn tourists against approaching these friendly dolphins for exactly this reason. An animal that weighs several hundred pounds and is built entirely out of muscle doesn't need malicious intent to seriously hurt you. It just needs to misjudge its own strength during what it genuinely believes is a game. And then there's the story you may have already heard, because it went viral for a very good reason. In 2013, a BBC documentary crew filmed a small group of young dolphins gently passing around a pufferfish, mouthing it delicately without tearing it apart the way they normally shred actual prey, then drifting near the surface afterward in a slow, dazed state, seemingly fascinated by their own reflections. Pufferfish carry a nerve toxin called tetrodotoxin, one of the most lethal substances known, potent enough that improperly prepared pufferfish sushi has killed people in Japan. The documentary's producers described the scene, plainly, as dolphins deliberately getting high. It's a genuinely great story. It's also not something scientists have actually confirmed. There's no controlled study proving intent behind that footage, and marine biologists who reviewed it afterward pointed out several less dramatic explanations. The dolphins could simply be play exploring an unfamiliar, mildly dangerous object the way a curious animal might poke at anything unusual, or experiencing localized numbness from the toxin rather than anything resembling actual euphoria. As of right now, the dolphins get high on purpose claim remains a popular, unverified interpretation of one anecdotal video sequence, not an established scientific finding. Worth knowing, worth staying a little skeptical of, and honestly, still a strange thing to watch, regardless of what's actually happening inside their brains when it happens. Here's what makes all of this land differently than if we were talking about, say, a shark. Dolphins are one of the only animals on Earth that reliably pass the mirror self-recognition test. They understand that the reflection they're looking at is themselves, a level of self-awareness shared with humans, great apes, and very few other species. They form decades-long friendships. They call each other by name using signature whistles. They grieve, sometimes visibly, pushing a dead calf's body along at the surface for days as if unwilling to let go. That's exactly what makes the coordinated infanticide, the gang coercion, and the sustained, almost gleeful-looking porpoise killings so much harder to file away as simple animal instinct. This isn't a fish following a blind biological script. This is one of the most self-aware, socially sophisticated animals on the planet, using that same intelligence to plan, coordinate, and execute violence with a level of premeditation we usually only associate with our own species. So where does that leave the whole gentle ocean friend reputation? Somewhere far more complicated than either extreme. The rescue stories aren't fabricated. Dolphins really do sometimes herd, nudge, and protect things at the surface, and researchers suspect that instinct may simply be an extension of behavior they use to keep their own calves safe, occasionally spilling over onto other species, humans included, more by accident of instinct than conscious moral choice. But that same animal is also documented killing infants of its own species for a calculated reproductive edge, running multi-day coordinated coercion campaigns against females using structured male alliances, and hunting down porpoises with a level of sustained violence that has nothing to do with hunger and everything to do with something closer to sport. Dolphins aren't secretly evil, and they were never the uncomplicated, permanently smiling heroes of the ocean either. They're wild, brilliant, deeply social animals, and like most intelligent, social species, including our own, that intelligence comes bundled with real aggression, calculated cruelty, and yes, occasional genuine acts of something that looks a lot like kindness. The mistake was never failing to notice the violence. The mistake was ever assuming that permanent smile meant anything at all.